What are you doing?
Holding my finger on it.
Dang, that's what I thought. It's doing now. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Yes, on now. Testing 1, 2, 3.
What do you think you're doing anyway? I don't want you. If I sing, you people might start crying.
Locals when you return home. So to continue this welcoming address to this city and to this convention, we have with us a man that can certainly qualify for this position. He was born and reared in Oxford, Mississippi, educated in the public schools of Oxford, a graduate of the University of Mississippi and Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary at Fort Worth, Texas, was pastor of a small church near the school. However, he decided to return to engineering work in the summer of 1944. He is an active member of the Northside Baptist Church, where he is a deacon and a teacher of a Sunday school class. He is a registered professional engineer, member of the Mississippi Society of Civil Engineers and Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity. He was active superintendent of the water department and assistant engineer for the city of Jackson, with 15 years of service to the city in the water department and in engineering capacity. Mr. Campbell will have some 30 years experience behind him in a new position that he now holds as city commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite a pleasure to present to you a man that represents more than 100 closed shops as far as qualifications to register and vote, Commissioner Lake Campbell of the city of Jackson.
Thank you, Brother Miley. Delegates to this convention, friends and distinguished guests. I'm glad I came down here this morning to hear what he had to say. I don't know where he got the material, but it sounded pretty good to me. I guess somebody deserves a little encouragement in the way of remuneration for all that they've furnished him to say. I appreciate very much the opportunity of being with you. I notice that you have a very busy schedule, and I don't intend to take but just a moment of your time. I've looked on these welcome spots sometimes just like a pull rope on a gasoline lawnmower. However, I think the proper way to start any convention or any conference is by prayer, as we just had. A pull rope on a gasoline motor, you know, a gasoline lawnmower is to be used to start the motor and then cast aside. And I'm sure you're anxious to get along with your business, but frankly, I don't want you to be to misinterpret what I have to say or misunderstand me. You know, public officials, probably like some of you, are many times misunderstood. They're misinterpreted and misquoted in the paper sometimes. And actually, sometimes we're mistreated, but we are paid for that, I think, and I just take that as part of our job. I think a little story I heard not long ago will illustrate what I'm talking about so you won't misunderstand me. Out in Texas, a lady was dyeing some clothes one morning, and inadvertently a little lamb fell in the bucket of dye, and it came out a pretty pastel color, and she became attached to it and raised the little lamb. And not too long from then, Gentleman came through and offered a fabulous price for this lamb. She couldn't sell it. She turned it down, and then he practically doubled the price, and she couldn't stand that any longer, so she sold it. And she got to thinking about that and decided it was a good deal. And finally, this lady became the biggest lamb dyer in the state of Texas. Now, I didn't say what some of you thought I said, so don't misinterpret my mission here. Certainly, I come and bring you a cordial welcome to the capital city of Mississippi, your capital city, those of you who live in Mississippi. We consider you a part of it, and we hope that you consider Jackson your capital city. We trust that your stay here will be profitable and a pleasant one. If there's anything that the city council as such can do, we certainly want you to call on us, and it would be a great pleasure to comply with your wishes. I hate to say anything. I'll have to be up in the public eye again, in a political way 2 years from now, but maybe I'll get an opportunity to talk to you again before then. Thank you too much for being with you. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much.
I don't think it will be a shock to you when I present to you the next man that will appear and call the shots for you today. All of you know him, and I'm sure that I could not say anything about him that you don't already know. So it is a happy privilege on this occasion to present to you your chairman of your local, your state COPE commission, or local and the local COPE organization. Delegates and ladies and gentlemen, President Ramsey.
Thank you, Brother Miley. I'm satisfied that the delegates at this convention didn't come to this convention to hear me speak. I have a few remarks, however, that I think should be said before we get on with the business of the convention. And before I begin those remarks, I want to say that we would like to extend an invitation to the Father to be with us as long as he can and as long as he sees fit. We have enjoyed so far having him with us. Also, I'd like to advise the delegates in this convention of one thing before we get started. When one of you arises to speak when we get under headway here, then make sure that you speak into the mic, because we have the record of this convention being recorded, and the system is tied in with a mic. So in order that we might get a complete record of the convention, be sure you speak into the mic where it can be recorded. Also, I'd like to say in the beginning that your executive board has seen fit to invite the press to attend this meeting. We felt that in view of a number of things, both said and unsaid, that this meeting should be open to the press, with the understanding that it might become necessary under certain conditions to go into an executive session. So I think we should begin our meeting with a full knowledge of all of these things. Delegates, brother and sister union members, I don't think that I need to impress upon your minds the importance of this meeting here today. As Brother Miley pointed out to you, this is the first meeting of this kind to be held in our state. And I'm convinced and I'm satisfied that practically all of the eyes of our people in this state are turned in this direction this morning. both our friends and our enemies, by the way. I think possibly that some people, particularly the people that we have to do battle with on occasion, not all the time, I'll say, are a little bit fearful to see our people assemble in a meeting of this kind, because they know full well that if our people are as successful in this venture as they are on the economic front, then they have got trouble on their hands. I just want to make a mark in that direction. I'm satisfied that all of you, as well as all of them, know that this organization, the organizations that we represent, constitute the largest single organization in the state of Mississippi, and that includes all of them. Certainly we do not have the money and the finances that some of these people have, but we do have the people. And by the same token, this organization represents the hopes and the aspirations of all of our working people in the state of Mississippi. That is exactly what this organization represents. And it will be through the efforts of this organization that the economic welfare of all of the people of Mississippi will be lifted from the bottom of the ladder. I think that each and every person here understands what I mean. I do not get any satisfaction, and I know that you do not, and knowing that we are at the bottom of the list in just about anything that can be mentioned, economically or otherwise. So I think that at this point that it would be useless for me to continue discussing these things with you, because you are acquainted of these facts. And it's not necessary for me to again remind you of these things. We have prepared an agenda for you. We have assembled some information for you. And we will attempt, as far as possible with your cooperation, to follow the agenda in this convention. And it will have to be with your cooperation. Unfortunately, that we find ourselves with only one day to take care of some work that it's took over a week for some of us to assemble. The information that we will present to you has taken over a week to assemble. So it might be that we haven't allowed enough time for you people to digest that information. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You will hear more about our business as we get along. You will also hear how we assemble this information from one of our more capable men in the organization. At this time, I shall cease my remarks and begin the business of the convention. I'd like to first appoint the committees. It was necessary to have some committees to take care of the business affairs of the convention in as short a time as possible. And it was necessary to get some people that were willing to do some work before the convention got underway. And I'll tell you, we got some people that are willing to do a lot of work under any conditions, circumstances, any time of the day or night. And these are the people that did the job for you. On the Credentials Committee, we have Jack Gage, the chairman, David Oakes, Wayman Goodman, Rita Guyton, Doris Kelly, and Eula Liston. Sergeant at Arms, we have Ray Bryant, J.M. Gilton, and R.R. Roberts. And I thought I had a copy of the rules with me. Yeah, I've got to locate them. I've got the copy of the rules here somewhere. Might be I'd ask the sergeant at arms to please bring me a copy of the rules. Wait, I have them here. I have them here. I had them someplace. On the Rules Committee, we have James Jackson's chairman, Donald Woodall, E.L. Barnes, Elton Odom, and Bert Bowers. That is your committees and your sergeant at arms. I would like to ask the sergeant at arms to please bring me the list of our guests at this time, please. One of the sergeant at arms, would you please bring me a list of our invited guests? On the guests that the hotel management has not furnished us with a gavel. I don't think we need a gavel to conduct this convention, but it looks like we might ought to get one. So if you can see one of those people out there and find out they got a stick of stove wood or something we use for a gavel, would you please get it in here? I can see some of our guests that I recognize here, so I shall proceed to introduce those guests, and when I get the list of those people out here, then I will introduce the rest of them. We have sitting at this table Brother Dan Powell, who I don't feel needs any introduction to you at this time. Brother Powell is director of our Southern District in the Committee on Political Education. Brother Powell. With one of them, after all, without the information. We have Brother T.F. Jenkins of Lake Village, Arkansas, who is an international representative of the operating engineers. Brother Jenkins. Glad to have you with us, Brother Jenkins. We have Brother B.R. Upton, who is an international representative of the Carpenters Union. Have you with us, Brother Upton. We have Brother Ray Allen of the Rubber Workers, an international representative. Glad to have you with us, Brother Allen. We have Brother, this guy don't need any introduction. What's he doing with this fellow up here? Willie I. Welbin of the ACWA staff. Brother Welbin, glad to have you. Some of you might know this character, most of us, all of us do. We have Brother William R. Henderson, Jr. of this OCAW, international representative. Glad to have you with us. Yes, an old face, we all know. We have with us W.L. Host, Brother W.L. Host of the IBEW. Glad to have you with us, Wes. I'll have to need a little help on pronouncing this name. This is W.D. Chastity? Is that right? Christie. Of the Machinists International Union. We have Brother Kristen A. Ramat, I hope I got that right, of the ARERIV. With us. Now, in case you don't know what organization this is the Hotel and Restaurant Workers. I'm kind of shorten it down to where you understand what the organization represents. We have with us Mrs. Irene Dunlop of the Malcolm 80 Clothing Workers. We're certainly glad to have you with us. We have Brother L.V. Hennigan of the Plasters and Cement Workers representative. Glad to have you with us. These people are international representatives. And we got another guy up here that's got no business in this outfit, in this crowd. He's doesn't need an introduction either. Otis Doggett of the ACWA. Brother Doggett, where's he at? Stand up here. We want to see you this morning. Not here. Anyhow, he doesn't need an introduction anyway. You tell him that we did call his name in anyway. Okay. And we have another fella that most of us know. Brother Lonnie B. Daniels of the CWA. Where's he at? Glad to have you with us, Lonnie. We have Brother Dillman Allman of the Barbers International Union. Glad to have you with us, Brother Allman. We have Brother R.E. Morris of the IATSE of Mobile, Alabama. Glad to have you with us. We have Brother Albert Johnston of the Moving Picture Operators. Glad to have you with us. We have Brother E.C. Pridgeon of the IUE Field Representative. Glad to have you with us. Now we have some other guests here also that we'd like to introduce to you. And of course, these people are we are really glad to have some of these people here with us this morning. I think possibly that we are missing the boat in respect to not having more of these people with us than we do. And that is the wives of some of our union members. I think maybe we'd possibly be a little bit further along, particularly in the business we're getting ready to get into, if we had more of our lady folks out with us. We have Mrs. Albert B. Bailey of Crystal Springs. Mrs. Bailey, glad to have you with us. We have Miss Ruth Ralph. She is a representative of the ACWA, by the way. Would you stand up, please? I'm going to try to give you some of the wives here. Is what I'm trying to do, you see. I don't want to get thinking here when I introduce one of these men that he falls in this category too. All right, we have Mrs. Charles Newell, ACWA. And also we have Mr. Charles B. Newell. People with us. Jerry Jones, another Vesta with us, of the meat cutters. Brother Jones represents the meat cutters organization. Now we got something that we make a little noise with. Thank you, Ray. We have some other guests, the people that I started out to introduce to you. A lot of them will be in the people that I called here this morning. Our Sergeant at Arms is having trouble keeping everything separated as we try to move along as fast as we can. We have Mrs. C.W. Falk of Gulfport, Mississippi. Certainly glad to have you with us, Mrs. Falk. She is the wife of one of our union members, which I referred to earlier. Mrs. Odessa Yarborough, is that correct? Of Terry. Glad to have you with us. Is that pronunciation correct? She is of Terry. Mrs. Thela Clyburn, is that correct? Clyburn? Glad to have you. Mrs. Clyburn is from Hazelhurst. And we have Mr. Roy Curtis of Tupelo. The UB. Now, we'll have to tell you where this guy is from, and then you can figure it out. The UB of C and T of A. We have Emma D. Jarrett of Corinth, Mississippi. Miss Emma, glad to have you with us. Here's a guy that some of you people I know a little bit about, and I'm certainly he needs some recognition. We have Ed Blair with us this morning of Columbus. Ed, will you stand up? I know that all of you are very glad to see Ed with us, because Ed at one time came close not to being able to be with us anymore. So I know you all understand what they're talking about here. We have Brother A.M. Collins of Law. Brother Collins. Brother Herbert Ishii, also of Law. Brother Floyd Collins, also of Law. Boys with us this morning. I won't go into details as to why. We're glad to have these boys with us, and we hope to have them with us some more. We have, this is, I presume, Miss Vera Tucker of Winona, Mississippi. Now, correct me, Miss. So some of the single delegates can take that into consideration. We have Brother Jasper D. Barlow of Hazelhurst. We have Mrs. Albert B. Bailey of Crystal Springs. I wanted to make sure that no one got overlooked. And I can assure the rest of you, our guests that are present, in the event I've overlooked you, then I'll try to locate you before the convention's over with. It is indeed a pleasure to have all of you people with us this morning and listen into and participate in the discussions of this convention and the business of this convention. We would like to give each and every one of you an opportunity to get up and give us a little piece of your mind, at least an opportunity to blow off a little steam, because we know all of you like to do that. But we don't have too much time. Therefore, we will ask you to please give us another chance. At this time, I'd like to find out if we can get a report from the Credentials Committee. Is he ready? Where is he at? The chairman of the Credentials Committee. Is he available? At this time that we get a report of the Credentials Committee, because we've got to do a little business here shortly. Headway, we're going to have more time than we thought, so maybe you people might get out of here before midnight after all. Or the Credentials Committee, Brother Jack Gates. Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, your Credentials Committee has been working pretty sturdy and everything, and we sort of feel that possibly you would like to save a little time today. I know we're going to have quite a session here, and we would like to offer a suggestion, if there's no objection, and that would be that all delegates who have been issued badges be seated instead of calling off this list of names. Now, do we have any objection to that? The motion is then that all delegates who have been registered and issued badges as delegates be seated in this convention. Now, we have the roster with the total votes and all that in the event of a roll call. We're prepared for that. But to save time is the reason we offered this suggestion. The motion was that the delegates be seated. You heard the recommendations of your committee. What is your desire? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All opposed to the same sign. Motion carried and so ordered. Thank you, Brother Chairman. That's the kind of committees we like to see work. That was the most expedient job of seating delegates that I have ever witnessed. I can see that the people here are very anxious to get on with their business and get something done. Or at this time, then, we can adopt some rules to run the convention by. We'd like to ask the chairman of the Rules Committee to please come forward, please. Your chairman, Brother James Jackson of the Rules Committee. Brother Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't go into long details.
Mr. Chairman, the question, I would like to see before us a copy of the rules, if you have them available. You might want to insert something and cut out something.
We will ask the Sergeant at Arms to please pass out copies of the rules. You're absolutely correct, Brother Hanna. Incidentally, I want to call your attention to this fact that these rules could not be passed out before your committee had had an opportunity to present them to you, because we didn't want the delegates here to think we were drafting the rules before they got into the convention. Thank you. We will wait then a few minutes and give them an opportunity to give you a copy of the rules. Everyone have a copy of the rules? Before we begin the committee's report, we have an individual who needs no introduction to you, but I think that he should be at least recognized. And I'm going to have to chew him out for not signing a card and letting us know he was here. Brother Bob Starnes over here. Stand up, Brother Starnes. Glad to have you with us, Bob. This time, the Rules Committee chairman will give you the Rules Committee report, Brother Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a report of the rules committed to the Mississippi Coke Convention. Rule number 1. The convention shall be called to order at 10 a.m. and will recess at 12 o'clock noon for lunch. The convention will reconvene at 1:30 p.m. and adjourn when all business has been transacted. Number 2. Every delegate desiring to speak on any subject shall proceed to the mic in his ear and be recognized by the chair. Announce his name and organization he represents. Rule number 3. A delegate shall not speak more than once on the same subject until all who wish to speak have had an opportunity to do so, nor more than twice, nor longer than 5 minutes at a time, without the unanimous consent of this convention. Rule number 4. Any delegate to the Mississippi Coke Convention who disturbs the peace and dignity of the convention shall be barred from his seat or a vote in the deliberations of this convention. Rule number 5. A roll call vote shall be taken on the demand of 30% of the delegates. Rule number 6. The Coke bylaw shall be the guide on all matters for which no provision is made herein. Rule number 7. The foregoing rules can only be changed by a 2/3 vote of the delegates present and voting. The committee concurs on the rules, and Mr. Chairman, I move the adoption of said rules.
You have a second on the motion. You've heard the motion to adopt the rules. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Brother Hanna, state your local
Mr.
union
Chairman,
number, please.
Local 4-470 Woodworkers and Executive Board member of the council. I would just rise to ask the question. I'm not a long-winded speaker myself, but there might be some before this convention on some issue that may arise that would need more than 5 minutes. And I think it'd be well that 5 be changed to 10. That's a matter maybe of my opinion, but when you pin them down to you have to have a unanimous consent of this convention, any one person can cut you off, and I don't think that's exactly as democratic as we should have. We should have a little more time than 5 minutes.
Brother Hanna, as you well know, the rules can be amended, and if it's your thinking, if the delegate's thinking that the rules should be so amended, then it would certainly be in order. You have not offered an motion to that effect, I don't believe, so...
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that you change this 5 minutes limit to a 10 minutes limit. Second.
The motion is to amend the rules where the word 5 is used in lieu of 5 to insert the words 10. Do we have a second to that motion to amend? Do we have any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Brother Hannah.
Mr. Chairman, I thought possibly that I discussed it enough, but I sincerely think it ought to be 10 minutes. That don't mean by any stretch of the imagination that they'll all take 10 minutes to make a speech or discussion any question, but I'm sure that you recognize with the hassle that we've got in the recent session chair of a committee and executive board, it'll take more than 10 minutes on a few issues.
Of course, Brother Hannah, being a member of the executive board, I can fully understand what you are talking about. Would you state your name and local
Chairman,
number? Would you state your name and local, please?
Sims,
Brother
CLU
Sims.
Columbus. I think 5 minutes is plenty of time for anybody to make. I believe they can get all they want to off their chest in 5 minutes. However, I won't be cranky about the thing. I'm a great hand for splitting differences. And I'd like to amend Brother Hannah's motion to read 7.5 minutes instead of 10.
Hey, this is going, if I can see right now, I'm going to find out what kind of a parliamentarian I am here today. Brother Sims has offered an amendment to the amendment that would use the time 7.5 minutes. Do we have a second to the amendment to the amendment? A second on the amendment. Do we have any discussion on this amendment, the amendment to the amendment, to change the time to 7.5 minutes? Any discussion on the motion? You ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, let it be known to say an aye. Oh, that's the amendment to the amendment. That's right. All opposed to the motion signified by saying aye. By the same token, it's the opinion of the chair that the amendment to the amendment has lost. Yes, we have to get the amendment now. We will now consider the amendment, which is to change the time from 5 to 10 minutes. Do we have any discussion on the amendment? Question. Question's been called for. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? All in favor of the motion to change the time from 5 to 10, please stand. That's the amendment. I'm undecided. All in favor of the amendment to change the time from 5 to 10 minutes, will you please stand? That's the amendment. All right. Then it's not, in my opinion, necessary to ask all of you that oppose to the amendment to rise, unless the maker of the motion would like to request that.
Mr. Chairman,
Brother Broden.
point of inquiry, Claude Bruton with the Jackson CLU. It was my understanding in our meeting of yesterday that there would be some place in the proceedings today when all of the delegates were assembled for caucuses to be had with regard to the district candidates. And it was my thinking, with that in mind, that in arranging the agenda, that some place on the agenda would be made for that purpose, and I do not see it. In order that that might be done, unless some further arrangement has been made for that to supplement the agenda, then I would propose a motion to this effect, that Rule 1 be amended with respect to reconvening at 1:30 and make that 2 p.m., and that during the noon hour the district delegates have an occasion to caucus and do whatever they would with regard to the candidates for the various district offices.
I can answer your inquiry, Brother Bruton. I see that you haven't offered an amendment to the motion. And I can answer your inquiry to this effect in regards to the proposition you're referring to. The Rules Committee did consult with our executive board, executive council, about this particular situation. And recognizing the fact that it might be practical, so to speak, not to spell this out in the agenda and use our committee's recommendations as the focal point to go into this caucus proposition. Because we felt like if we placed it on the agenda, then and placed it in a certain time that would be unable to take advantage of all the time at our command. And after your rules are adopted and we go into the proceedings of the convention, the first order of business will be the caucus proposition you're referring to.
Well then, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion.
Now, the motion before the House is to adopt the rules that you have before you. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? The question's been called for. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed. Motion carried and so ordered. Thank you, Brother Jackson. Now it would appear that we are in a position to start doing a little business. And I would like to say to you now that up to this point, that you have been taking care of the time element very satisfactorily. We have, as a matter of fact, we're running ahead of schedule as I see it. It might be that we'll get behind a little later on, but right now we're moving along rather nicely. At this time, I would like to present to you your most capable vice president, who is in charge of your educational and Committee on Political Education activities. Brother Thomas A. Knight. Brother Knight will give to you the detail, as far as he can, a detailed explanation as to how your committee arrived at the report that you will be given as the next order of business. Brother Knight.
Get this mic up here where it'll fit a man. Mr. President, fellow officers, executive board members, delegates, and guests. As a member of the screening committee of your state Committee on Political Education, I would like to very briefly try to explain to you, more or less to put it plain, what the committee has gone through with in the last 7 days. As you know, the screening committee was selected to propose to come up with an answer to the problem here today that we face with regard to the candidates for public office in Mississippi. We went about this in this manner. The candidates for the lesser state offices, and I mean other than governor and lieutenant governor, were interviewed more or less by mail. There was a questionnaire pertaining particularly first to their particular office, the duties connected directly with this office, and to the government of the state of Mississippi in general. These questionnaires were mailed to these people all alike. Each one was shown the same courtesy, regardless of his office or what section of the state in which he lived or what have you. And your committee personally interviewed the candidates for the office of Lieutenant Governor and Governor of this state. That is, those who were willing to meet with us. And of course, there were one or two exceptions. This committee endeavored, with its humble judgment and all of the information available to us, to take these replies and thrash them out without favor or prejudice toward anybody in this state or any candidate. These questionnaires were very carefully gone over. The answers to the questions by the candidates were very carefully gone over by this committee. And I want to say to you now, I'm not patting myself on the back or any other members of the committee. Were elected to do a job. Certainly we endeavored to carry out that responsibility to you. But I want to tell you now, that from 18 to 20 hours a day since last Sunday, this committee has been in session, trying with all of our heart, soul, and might to bring back to you today the most honest report that we know how in our humble judgment. I might state at this time that we take in consideration the past record of this person in public office, if they had held public office of any type. We take in consideration their answers to the questions which had been asked them. We take in consideration their support, financially and otherwise, and the various groups and individuals of this state who might be supporting and opposing them, if you please. And in this light, our recommendations will be made to you. And I might further say that I want you to bear in mind, when the report is made to you on these offices, that we have twisted, we have turned, we have looked at every angle in every way that we could possibly look at it. And I want to repeat again that this report contains no favoritism toward any candidate for public office. We considered no personal acquaintance between any member of this committee and any candidate. We looked at this thing as a matter of record, and as a matter of the person who would best serve the people of the state of Mississippi. I might go just a little further on the personal interviews with the candidates for governor and lieutenant governor. We considered very seriously the answer to every question. There's differences in answers. There's positive approaches to the thing, and this middle-of-the-road business and on the fence. And I assure you again that wasn't an easy job. And I think the committee will agree with it. And so will the executive board and the state COPE committee. And my friends, when you hear this report, I want you to weigh it in the light of the facts, in the light of everything involved. And we certainly hope that we have at least come up to your expectations as a people in whom that you have placed this trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Knight. I knew that we could depend on our good Vice President to do the situation justice, and he did just that. And I would like to say that you have possibly some of the better workhorses that I've ever seen as members of this committee. We also have some of the most hard-headed people that you ever run into on this committee. Each and every one of them have a mind of their own. And for your consideration, which I know Brother Knight fully intended to explain to you, on the questionnaire to the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor, the questions posed were not questions restricted to labor only. And it might be well at this time, or possibly later on, when we get into the discussions for Governor and Lieutenant Governor, that we explain to you what those questions were and what subjects were dealt with, rather. At this time, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to present to you your Secretary and Treasurer, who is also your State Director of your Committee on Political Education, Brother Ray Smithart, who will give you voice. Brother Smithart.
Mr. Chairman, delegates, guests, I'm going to try to explain how we went into this year just a little bit. The other night has already told you what we've done, but we're going to, later on in here, we run into a problem we didn't consider to start with, setting up this Coke Screening Committee. To be a little bit more democratic, we thought. We had some district-wide offices, which this was a state Coke committee. And these district-wide offices, of course, all of us can't vote on those. That's the Public Service Commission and the Highway Commission. And we're proposing later on here in this morning's session that we will go into a caucus in these three districts. Now, I'll tell you the rooms that we'll be in. I hadn't got them broke down in which district will go where, but you can make, I believe the 6th district, or 3rd district would probably be the largest group, and they would stay in this hall here. First district, the southern district, the central district, say the central district, that's Jackson, Meridian, Vicksburg. We'll go to the bamboo room. That's the room on your left, out from the registration, where you register out here up the hall. Go down to the end of the hall, turn to the left. Northern district will be the club room. You go down this hall, come back right over here, it's right on your right. I don't know how much time it would take you to discuss these highway commissioners and public service commissioners, but we'll have someone on the screening committee in each one of these groups. We'll go into the details of this and tell you what we come up with and let you kind of decide what you want to do on that instead of everybody voting on somebody in the southern district or somebody in the northern district. At this time, I'd like to offer a motion that the caucuses be split up in each three districts. We'll go to the rooms that they want to select. I would say the southern district will stay in this room. The central district will go to the bamboo room. The 3rd district will go to this room here. I'm offering a motion to that effect.
You have heard the motion, and we will consider the time element and the proposition. Now, your motion is that your committee recommends that the convention break up into 3 caucuses to consider making a recommendation for the district-wide offices for candidates on that basis. In other words, the caucus group will report back to this convention their findings. If they recommend that our members support a particular candidate, then you will act on that proposition. Now let me look at the time, and then we will find out as to what you want to do. Now, we felt like that it would possibly be somewhere in the neighborhood of 11:30 when we arrived at this point. And according to my time, it's 5 minutes after 11. Now, it appears to me that you should be able to arrive at some kind of a decision, maybe not make a complete decision. There's several things you might have to do here, and be able to be back here at possibly 11:30 or 11:35. That would give you 25 or 30 minutes to consider the proposition. Now, if you think that that is time enough, then that is as it will be done. If you think that it needs more time, after you consider the motion with the understanding as to what we're trying to do here, then we can set the time by a motion from the floor. You've heard the motion. Brother Hanna, on the motion.
Point of information on this motion. The committee has already certain recommendations which they'll give to these groups in their caucus. Is that right?
That's right. That is right. The committee has information considering candidates for the public service commissioners and of your highway commissioners. Those are the two positions to be considered. The information that has been accumulated by your committee will be made available to the caucus groups. Do we have any other discussion on the motion? You're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed. Motion carried and so ordered. Now let me ask a question. Do you people think that 25 minutes will be sufficient to take care of this proposition? All right, then the convention will now break up into 3 caucuses and adjourn to the rooms that you have been named. Now let me say this, that if there's any of you who might not be too sure as to the county that you're in, what district it's in, if you're right in the borderline, so to speak, we do have the information up here, and we'd be glad to make that available to you. Okay, we will now break up into the caucus groups. Convention will be in order. We'll ask the sergeant at arms to please get the delegates into the convention hall. We don't have too much time before the recess period for lunch, and we could possibly save ourselves some time if we can dispose of the caucus reports before lunch. You have I propose that we go about this in this fashion, that we take the office of Public Service Commission first, and that we begin in the Northern District. That then we get the recommendations for the 3 districts for that office. Of course, there's one that doesn't have any opposition. And then we will then come back to the office of Highway Commissioner and proceed in like manner. Who will make the report for the caucus from the Northern District? Brother Hanna?
Mr. Chairman, Hanna of the Executive Board, I would like to make a motion. If I can get a second here, I would talk on it just a little. I would move that, since we have the press here, that we give the press a copy of these questionnaires that's been prepared by our council and the committee and sent out to these different candidates for office. If I can get a second, I'd like to talk on it. Mr. Chairman.
Brother Chairman, Brother Hannah, rather.
Yes.
Brother Hannah. It might be well at this time if we consider the time element. Now, if you would like to, in your remarks, explain to us why you want this, then in connection with the caucus reports, then I certainly would consider that motion as being in order. You understand what I mean? Is that what you're
You will accept, I would
accept the motion if your intention here is to support the caucus recommendation or your caucus approach to the problem. Now, this is where we're at. Your committee has proposed to you that your selection or your approach to the problem in the various district offices be handled by caucus. Under the order of business on your committee recommendations which you have adopted, then it is now time to get the reports of those caucus groups. Otherwise, your motion would have to be out of order. You understand what I mean?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we won't get technical over it, but if you'd rule me out of order, I would ask a special privilege. And I want the press to be informed of why and the reasons for these questions before we come out with recommendations and reports from the district.
Okay, then I shall consider the motion as being in order. If it's the will of the delegates here to support that ruling, then your motion will be in order.
Mr. Chairman,
do we have a second to the motion? Okay.
We have the press here with us. They was invited. And my position in making this motion is to give the press full information and to keep the record straight. I'm sure that the press here, I'm acquainted with one member over here I see. I haven't met the other one. I've been associated with Mr. Webb for several years. I want the press to inform the people and the public that this program here is not a special program pertaining to labor. That this program here is a program that is the fruit of the recent convention by convention action and the delegates in the way of resolutions that was adopted for the entire state of Mississippi to improve the economic standing and the progress and the welfare of the state of Mississippi and for all of its people. I want them to know that we are not a special privileged group and that we are not seeking any special privileges. It seems that we have in the past and are still on the defensive side. The reason I say this is that there has not been any members of the press with us in this meeting, and the only information they got was that we were merely asking candidates questions pertaining to issues that might affect labor. I noticed that on the TV the other night and the radio and see it in the paper, and certainly that is a mistake. We prepared questionnaires covering material that affects everybody in the state of Mississippi, and we feel like that what is good for Mississippi is good for us, and certainly what is good for us is good for Mississippi. And I would like for us to give them this information. The answers to the questionnaires, no, because the candidates that wrote in these answers, it is for our information and our files, and it will not be revealed. And if there's any press releases by any with reference to that matter, it will be by the candidates who reviewed. And I think that we're entitled to that kind of a freedom of the press and publicity to let the people know that we are interested not in just organized labor and our welfare, but the welfare of the state of Mississippi. And I wanted them to give us a true fact in the press and not slant it to where that we are out seeking special privileges as an individual or special privileged group. Thank you.
Anna?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say a word in support of Brother Hannah's motion and urge the delegates to adopt his motion. The silhouette that's been painted of us in this state, throughout the Southland in particular, is not too good. And the press has been the greatest factor in disseminating that silhouette. We've been used as the kicking post on every issue that's come along. And we've been put in the light of a special interest category when the truth of the matter is this, that while we're assembled here as labor people and members of organized groups, we are by virtue so assembled in that we are the only groups that have the right to so assemble. The unorganized have no right to assemble, nor to project their thinking as to the welfare of themselves or their fellow people. And I think it is essential that the press be honor bound in relaying the thinking of this delegation assembled here today as to its feeling toward any candidate, that they also give to the public our thinking as to the overall welfare and well-being of every person in the entire state of Mississippi. But these questionnaires are projected from that viewpoint rather than from the standpoint of labor alone. And that no doubt, when the farmer in Leake County sees that we have his interest at heart as well as ours, that he would like to have the answer to that specific question the same as our people do. And I think the press has a sacred duty not to give this in an editorial manner, but to give a factual account of the questionnaire projected to each candidate, and also to advise the public that any thinking of this convention with regard to any candidate so recommended or supported or any other term that you want to use comes about by virtue of his response to those questions, which would be the same as though he had replied to any man in his own household throughout the state of Mississippi. I think the press has that responsibility to the people of this state to give that factual account.
Thank you, Brother Bruton. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried, and so ordered. Now it will be necessary that the secretary be given a little bit of time to assemble the various types of questionnaires that were sent out to the various questions. I presume that the intention of that motion was to make available to the press the questions sent out to candidates for all offices. That is, I interpreted that motion, and I would like to advise the representatives of the press that the secretary here will have to have a little bit of time to secure that information. Now, it is 12 o'clock. According to our rules, it is time for the lunch recess, and it's quite possible that our secretary can have that information back here when we reassemble. And when we reassemble, we will be in a position to then receive the caucus reports and proceed on with the order of business. So, we will stand recessed until 1:30.
Just a minute, Mr. Chairman.
Just a minute.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that you suspend the rules with reference to the time of reconvening here at 1:30 to 2 o'clock. If I can get a second, I'll give you the reason why. Mr. Chairman, as you well know, the southern district or southern area could not come up with a definite candidate to support on the highway commissioner, as highway commissioner. And this matter was referred to the presidents of the central bodies, and I think that they need an extra 30 minutes, possibly with them to come up with the recommendations whenever we reconvene here at 2 o'clock.
I'd like to advise Brother Hannah that I was a little quick on the announcement of recess for lunch. I did have one of the brothers ask me to give him an opportunity to make an announcement that he wanted to call a meeting of the 4 CLU groups. Now, with that thought in mind, you still want your...
Well, if it's up to the people here, if they want to give them an extra time, or if these boys think they don't need 30 minutes, you know, with the hassle we got in this already, They might need 30 minutes. That's why I made the motion.
All right, you've heard the motion and the reason so stated. Here's the brother from Natchez. We will have to consider the motion. The motion is to extend the rules, the time of reconvening from 1:30 to 2 p.m., which means it'll take 2/3 of the vote of this convention to amend those rules. What do you say? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Huff, Natchez Central Labor Council. I don't believe that we will have time due to the fact that there's going to be some discussion on this recommendation. Because we in Natchez have a problem. We've got 4-lane highways going right on up on the main street of Natchez, supported by John D. Smith. Now, the labor that he's used on most of these roads have been organized labor. And so what we want to do is to have call a meeting later and discuss this of the people of that district, and not today and have a caucus later, because I don't believe we can come up with a recommendation. So if the 4 presidents of these central labor councils will meet here immediately after the adjournment, we can set a time for our meeting.
Okay, Brother Hunt.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not a president of the central body, and if that's what they desire, well, I'd withdraw my motion if my second will withdraw his second.
Then how about the second of the motion? Okay. All right, then do we have any announcements? Do we have any announcements? Now, you're going to call this meeting? Have you already? You're going to advise them to stay here with you? What? Then the chairmen of the central labor unions in the Southern District will please meet here immediately upon adjournment, and the time will be set. Do we have any other announcements? Any other announcements? If there are none, we'll recess for lunch. Be back. The convention will be in order. I have a few announcements and a few other things to do before we call for the caucus reports. We have a few guests that have come in since we announced our visitors earlier this morning, and at this time we'd like to recognize those people. We have with us a person that needs no introduction to most of the people here, I feel reasonably sure. But nevertheless, he is here as the international representative of the Painters Union, Brother G.K. Fritz. Brother Fritz. Would somebody be kind enough to tell Brother Fritz that we have just recognized him here? Who's that with him? We have a couple of ladies also that we did not give recognition to this morning, who either came in late or were not accorded the same respect as the other guest, who we'd like to recognize at this time also, Mrs. J.B. Hannah of Jackson. Mrs. Hannah. We're certainly glad to have Mrs. Hannah out, and to know that one of our executive board members was able to get his wife out with him. We have also Mrs. A.M. Collins of Laurel, Mississippi. Mrs. Collins. Certainly glad to have you with us, Mrs. Collins. Now, I'd like to find out if there are any guests that we have overlooked. Would you please stand up, please? And I shall assume that we have recognized all of our guests. It will be almost impossible as we get along now to recognize any of those people from this point on. This time I'd like to call on the chairman of the Credentials Committee, to give us that committee's final report. Brother Jack Gager, Chairman of the Credentials Committee. Mr. Chairman, we have some 170 delegates registered. We had possibly 8 or 10 after I gave you the report this morning. And at this time, I would like to offer you a motion that all the qualified registered delegates be seated. And that the Credentials Committee be discharged. You've heard the motion. The motion is that all qualified delegates, all registered delegates, be duly seated and that the committee be discharged. We have any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. I think we need to give this committee a good round of applause for the wonderful job they've done. This committee has really done some work. They had to go to work on this thing yesterday and work half of the night last night in order that we might take available every spare minute and be ready to really do the job here today. Do we have any announcements that needs to be made that can't be made when we reach adjournment time? All right, then at this time, we will take up the caucus reports of the various groups that went into caucus prior to lunch. In regards to those candidates that they might want to recommend to the convention for this convention to act on. As stated before, we'll start at the north end of the state and come down, taking the northern district first, the middle district second, and the southern district last. As the caucus from that area, is the caucus from that area ready to give us a report? And if so, would you please come to the mic, please?
Mr. Chairman.
Give us your name and
Wayman Goodman, Executive Board member, and also member of the Screening Committee. The Northern District has recommended to this convention that they accept the Screening Committee's recommendation, and I would like to ask that the Secretary-Treasurer will read that recommendation as he has it.
The recommendation of the Screening Committee was to recommend that we support Phillips as the incumbent of the Public Service Commission. The Highway Commission has no race there.
I would like to make that as a motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. The caucus recommends to the convention that we support Phillips for the office of Commissioner for the Public Service Commission. Do we have any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion signified by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. We will now hear from the Southern District, having no contest in the Middle District. As the committee, is the caucus ready to give us a report at this time? Brother Knight.
Mr. Chairman, the caucus of the Southern District Public Service Commission has recommended that this convention accept the Screening Committee's report. And Brother Smithhart, if you will, give us that report.
The Screening Committee recommends the Southern District support the present Public Service Commission as Bucky Moore.
I offer that as a motion.
We have a motion that the Southern District recommends that we support Bucky Moore for the office of Public Service Commissioner. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, let it be known to say an aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Incidentally, it might be well if we tell you that in the opinion of your screening committee and of your board meetings, other groups, we feel that the present Public Service Commission in this state has done an excellent job and that they are entitled to the support of all our people, either inside or outside of the movement. All right, then we'll go back up to the northern end of the state where we will take up the office of Highway Commissioner, where we do not have a contest. Then we'll move down to the middle district and find out if that caucus is ready to give us a report. Is that caucus ready to report? Brother Smith, Hart.
But you know, on the central district, we just only have two. It's the opinion of the screening committee that we should hear more from the people in this district. So in this caucus this morning, we discussed these issues back and forth, and the recommendation from the caucus that we'd recommend to our people in the central district that we support Tom Lutz, the chairman. I move the adoption of the report.
You've heard the motion and the committee's recommendation. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Fred McGee, Vicksburg Central Labor Union. There's a lot of these people don't know how to spell that name. Would you spell it for them?
L-U-T-Z. It could be Lutz or Lutz. I don't know what's the correct pronunciation of it. Lutz. I'm assured by a good friend that it's Lutz. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now the Southern District, Brother Knight.
Mr. Chairman, the caucus of the Southern Highway Commissioner District recommends to this convention that the action on the Highway Commissioner's race be referred back to the central labor bodies in the Southern District, and I so move.
The motion is that the action in regards to attempting to select a candidate for this office be referred back to the central bodies within this district. Now, one of the brothers this morning made you a little talk here on the sort as to what the problem was. And it might be well, when upon consideration of this motion, that the people who are responsible for trying to solve this problem would tell you what our recommendations actually mean. You've heard the committee's recommendation. What do we have any discussion on the committee's report? Any discussion? Then it appears to me that I shall have to attempt to explain to you the process that has been selected to try to solve the problem. The chairman of the various central bodies within this district has been set up as a committee of 4 to set a time and a date and so forth to call a meeting of all of the delegates within this district or a representative group within this district to try to solve the problem. And then after that's solved, they will all be notified as to whoever they have decided to support, if any. Do we have any discussion now on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. We will now get on to the report of the State Committee on recommendations of candidates for statewide office. Brother Smithart, who is also chairman of our council, state director of our political activities and so forth, will now proceed to give you that report. Brother Smithart.
The next report will be on the State Land Commissioner. We explain here that we mail out letters, questions to these people that's running for this office of State Land Commissioner. We didn't personally interview them. We did check their records, which some of them has public records. We did go over their questions very carefully. And we come up with a screening committee that we recommend the state support Connie McLeod. And I so move.
You've heard the committee's recommendations. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Speaking in the mic.
The name is Connie McLeod. L-O-Y-D.
I'd like to say this for your own information before you get any further on this thing. Your committee has a written report ready for you with the candidates who have been selected. It will be ready for you if you adopt the committee's recommendations. It cannot be passed out until you complete your action, because then you might go contrary to what the committee has reported, and it would become necessary to make some changes. Now, when the committee completes its report, you will have a list and an explanation of those candidates. I want to make that clear because this question might be important. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Brother Hannon?
Mr. Chairman, again, it might be well that this body be informed who all is in the race for State Land Commissioner.
In the state race, we have Montgomery and Graham, which is incumbent, and Lloyd, 3 people.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to discuss just a few minutes, possibly not the whole 5. The recommendations of the committee. As chairman of the committee, you well know that Connie McLeod mailed back a questionnaire that would, or answers that would have been as good as any of us would have given, which was pertaining to his office and as land commissioner in the state of Mississippi. We also know that Mr. Graham never returned a questionnaire, for what reason we don't know, and that is one of the rules that they went by. I would like to say this about Connie McLeod. Some of you may think it's M-C-L-O-Y-D, but that's his second name. First name is Connie McLeod. Connie McLeod has a record in the House of Representatives in Mississippi. Connie McLeod was a friend of labor from the time he came into the House until he left. He voted and stayed with us all the way against the 3 vicious bills that was introduced in 1950, 792, 93, and 94, which would have just about eliminated organized labor from the surface of the state of Mississippi. So I, for one, knowing where he stands and have been assured that he has been our friend and will continue to be, whenever the occasion arises, I certainly would, I am going along with the committee's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hannon. You stayed well within the time limit. Do we have any other discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Smithhart.
The next office we have is state tax collector. We have several in this race. Got 2 pages up. As we stated before, that these offices, these lesser offices we say, that we sent letters to all of them, registered mail, receipt requested. They all received these letters, but didn't all of them return them. Some few didn't return them, and so, in other words, we couldn't grade these people. And the ones that we are recommending here is ones that answered our questionnaire, the ones that has had a past record in some position that we could justify our position. And to start off on these 10, I will name them in alphabetical order as they will appear on the ballot on August the 4th. We have William E. Bill Andrews from Purvis, Mississippi, John Whitfield Birdsong of Edwards, Mississippi, R.E. Rusted Guyman from Weston, Mississippi, Wayne L. McClure of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Charles P. Mosley of Meridian, Mississippi, R.D. Peel of Pascagoula, Mississippi, Charles W. Pitts from Meridian, Mississippi, W.R. Billy Priester from Natchez, Mississippi, Lee V. Prysock of Jackson, Mississippi, and William F. Winter from Grenada, Mississippi. As this here, we say we had a good many of these, as 10 on this one office, and we had taken quite a time to interview, go over all these questions that we had and check out records and different things that we did on this. And the committee recommends that we support William E. Bill Andrews from Purvis, Mississippi. And I so move.
You've heard the committee's recommendations and a motion to adopt. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Brother Hannah?
Mr. Chairman, I guess this body can well see why I asked that the time limit be extended this morning, because it seemed like I'm all the one going to say anything. But I would like to discuss our reason for supporting the man for just a little. I'm sure that there's many people here from different sections of the country, for example, some from Meridian, who would is naturally friendly to Mosby and others from other areas that has an idea that they want to support certain candidates. But again, I go back to the legislature in the state of Mississippi, and that is one of the basis for giving a man consideration is his record. And I might say that Bill Andrews, president of Lamar County in Purvis, originally was from Jones County, Free State of Jones. He has been well acquainted and associated with the labor movement, and he does have a good record in the state of Mississippi so far as labor is concerned, and for all the people in Mississippi on different issues, not just labor issues. He was truly a representative from the area that he came from, and he represented the people as a whole in Mississippi on vital issues. He has a good record, one possibly as good, if not better, than I could have made if I had been there. And although I'd have been a try. So for that reason, and knowing Bill Andrews, as he did come to the convention recently, and everyone he met, he asked for the support, and I'm sure that he will do the job that he has assured us wherever and whenever possible, and he will give us any assistance, and also do the best for the welfare and advancement, and collect all the revenues possible that he may get to pay the cost of the administration of the government of the state of Mississippi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Brother Hannah. Now, it might be interesting to note again that you stayed within the time limit, and in order that you might be in a little bit better position to judge how much time you're actually using. It took you exactly 2 minutes on both of those statements. I don't know what you'd have done with 10 minutes. Do we have any other discussion?
One point of order, Mr. Chairman. Can I accumulate this time left over in case I need it a little later?
Not according to the rules as adopted. Do we have any other discussion on the motion? And passing, it might be well to note that the incumbent did not answer our questionnaire, which made some difference naturally. Do we have any other discussion on the motion? That would be a good question. You got it down there? He says half of them, 5. Any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Smith Hart, give the committee's next recommendation.
The next office was the Commissioner of Insurance, and we don't make any recommendations in this office. We don't make any recommendation of Agriculture and Commerce Commission. And I move that we don't take any action on these 2 officers.
The committee recommends that no candidate be selected for the 2 officers named, which were the Commissioner of Insurance and the Commissioner of Agriculture. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Again, the problem was the questionnaire and the past record and things like that. That this is what we're all based on. And the committee had to make a decision, and we didn't feel like that the committee could make a recommendation for a candidate for either of these 2 officers. So he's giving them to you in a package deal. You'll get rid of 2 of them at one time by following this action. Do we have any discussion on the motion? So you're not voting for anyone. You will not have a recommendation for a candidate for either of these 2 offices. Means that you will select who you want to in whatever manner you want to. We have any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed with the same sign. Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Smith Hart.
The next office is the Superintendent of Education. And I said before that we sent letters to, there's only 2 running. They both answered the letters. And we graded them on past records, the job that they've done, and the questions they have answered, how they answered them. And on this office, we recommend to you that we support the incumbent, which is J.M. Jack Tubb. I so move we make that recommendation.
You've heard the committee's recommendation, and that is that we recommend the present incumbent for this office, Mr. Tubb. Do we have any discussion on the motion? You ready for the question? In passing, it might be well to mention that we felt like that Mr. Tubb had done an excellent job, and he warranted not only our support, but the support of the entire state of Mississippi and all of its people. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed with the same sign. The motion carried and so ordered. Brother Smith Hart.
The next office is Auditor of Public Accounts, which we have two people running for this office. Mrs. Ann Slayton of Taylorsville, Deputy Bill Neal. The committee makes no recommendations for either one of these persons. I move the adoption committee report.
You've heard the committee's recommendations. Is there any discussion on the motion? The recommendations are that we do not recommend any candidate for this office to this group. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed with the same sign. Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Smith-Hart.
The next office is the State Treasurer. We have three people in this race: Miss Evelyn Gandy of Hattiesburg, Frank B. Pittman of Jackson, and Leland Speed of Jackson. The committee recommends that this body recommend to our membership Miss Evelyn Gandy from Hattiesburg. I so move.
You've heard the committee's recommendation, and that is that this group support Miss Evelyn Gandy for this office. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Brother Thomas A. Knight. Well, make sure that you get where you can get in it there, boy, because we want to hear what you got to say.
Cut myself off, I think. Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, I feel like that I should say just a word or two in behalf of the committee's recommendation. Of course, I want to say at the beginning, the fact that I live in Forest County and that Evelyn Gandy was born and raised in Forest County has nothing to do with it. But I want you to know that this young lady served in the Mississippi legislature, and her record is above and beyond reproach. I think her record not only as a member of the legislature, but her entire activities in her life are beyond reproach. And with that in mind, this committee felt, as you have heard, that it would be to the best interest not only of labor, but of the citizens of Mississippi and of the state government that we support the candidacy of Miss Evelyn Gandy. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Knight. I'm sure now you understand why I wanted you to get that mic where you could be heard. Do we have any other discussion on the motion? Brother Hanna.
Brother Chairman, I'd just like to say a few words. I can't help it because I'm bashful and timid, and my wife is up here just to check on me probably, but I've got to say a little bit about the young lady myself. I would say that certainly we would have to go along, or should at least, with the recommendations of the committee. I too am acquainted with Miss Gandy. I was associated in meetings with her and others discussing legislation, and not just labor legislation, if you please, while she was in the House. She does have a good record. Over and above the fact that she has a good record, she is not only just running on a record, she is capable, she's qualified, and since, you know, they talk about the Bar Association being one of the strongest and the greatest and the best organized in Mississippi, she is a member of that, and I'm sure the Bar Association probably will go along to aid and assist one of their members too. So she is capable of doing a good job to carry out the duties of this office if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hanna. Do we have any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Smith Hart.
More statewide offices that we don't have any no contest at all. So I just mentioned that's the Secretary of State and Supreme Court clerk. So in other words, they would be the only ones on the ballot. Don't think we are skipping over some of them. If we're not, they just not on won't be on the ballot. So Attorney General don't have any opposition. He'd be elected without opposition. The next one we have here for our consideration will be the Lieutenant Governor. We have at this time, the first will be William Henry Buckaloo of Laurel, Mississippi, A.E. Hawkins of Houston, Mississippi, Paul B. Johnson of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Brown Williams of Philadelphia, Mississippi. We interviewed these people personally, the ones that did come before us. We talked to them for approximately 2.5 to 3 hours on a questionnaire that had 5 phases of it. It wasn't only deal with labor legislation, but deal with all types of legislation or things that would benefit our people or hurt them. And in our opinion, after going through these questions and evaluating them, that we come up with the recommendations that we would make to you today would be William Henry Buckaloo, and I so move the adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the committee's recommendations and the motion to adopt, and that we recommend our people that they support Henry Buckaloo as a candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Do we have any discussion on the motion? B-U-C-K-L-E-W, Buckaloo. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be well if the committee would advise the delegates the basis upon which this recommendation was made so that there'll be no doubt in any of them's mind as to the thoroughness of the committee's consideration of all 4 of the candidates.
I agree with you, brother. So I shall call upon our good Vice President, Mr. Thomas Knight, to give you, to the best of his ability, to the best of his ability, his version of our interview with the candidates for Lieutenant Governor, and how we came about making this recommendation to you. Brother Thomas Knight.
Why get into all this? Delegates, as you have been told, we have 4 men running for this office. As you have been told, this questionnaire in which we use to interview these gentlemen takes in 5 phases of our government in Mississippi: taxation, education, economic development, democratic procedures, and labor. And I certainly feel that under these 5 categories that we have covered some of the most important things that we have in this state in which a public official would have anything to do with. Next, there are 2 of those gentlemen who fail to meet with us. Why, we do not know. One is Honorable Paul Johnson of Hattiesburg. 2, Honorable Armis Hawkins of Houston, Mississippi. The other two gentlemen whom we interviewed was Brown Williams of Philadelphia and Henry Buckaloo of Laurel. After a lengthy interview and discussion with these two gentlemen, thoroughly going through this questionnaire, hashing it out in every angle that we knew how, putting the questions to these fellows in a way that we were sure that they understood our approach. Then simply, all I can say is this, that after we considered their answers, their approach to these questions, which we consider the basic problems of the people in Mississippi today, we considered their sources of support, groups and individuals, and their reaction to the program which we feel that should be a must for the future of this state. That is on the basis, as I said, it was very carefully discussed, pro and con, so as to extend the courtesy to each of the two gentlemen alike, and to the best of our ability, with all of the information that we had, after talking very patiently with these men, then we recommended to you the Honorable Buckaloo.
Thank you, Brother Knight. That was a well-done job if I've ever seen it. Do we have any other discussions on the motion?
Brother Chairman,
Hannon?
a question. Wasn't all these candidates for Lieutenant Governor mailed a letter with a registered return receipt requested also
That is a
to
fact.
appear before the committee?
And it is furthermore a fact that Mr. Paul B. Johnson was in the Heidelberg Hotel on one or two of the days that the committee was in session.
Wasn't there additional efforts made to contact these candidates after they did not answer the letters?
That is also a fact. An attempt was made to find out whether or not those candidates had forgot about the letter and whether or not for some reason that they, in other words, a justifiable reason and that they had not failed to notify our committee.
One other question, Mr. Chairman. Since I have been myself a supporter of Paul Johnson, isn't it a fact he was roving around in the hotel for 2 or 3 days and ignored the committee and just act like he had never seen you before?
That is a fact. I think I made that statement already.
Now, if I might say just a few words, I would say one other reason that we culled one of these gentlemen in a race is that he claims to have done a job for the people, that he allowed one of the members here in this body today, or assembled in this body today, to be attacked by thugs, beat up and put in the hospital, and he never made any attempt whatsoever to ever really that anybody could find out to correct or do anything about these fellows that beat up one of our members. I know that for a fact because I made several efforts to get the FBI into this case for investigation. But I'm speaking of Mr. Armis Hawkins from North Mississippi. Brother James Jackson is here, and I say that I don't think that kind of a candidate is very interested in the welfare of the entire people or the entire state if he allows any group or any segment which has a right under the laws of the United States to go out and try to bring an organization to a group of people who needs it. So naturally we would call that gentleman. And he never answered or never even contacted him and told him he'd be glad to come down there even if he'd have failed or got the letter.
That is the information that was relayed on to our committee.
Yes, sir. Nothing wrong with me stating that, are there?
I thought you were asking me a question.
Well, one other thing here, if I have the privilege here, just to say a few words in behalf of my good friend Henry Buckaloo.
Are you going to speak on the motion?
Yes, sir.
Then we're going to start your time.
All right. Thank you. We really carried on here today, I can tell you now. It's a good thing that I'm not running for some office myself here, because I'd probably have to ask the privilege to have a little more time. But friends and fellow delegates and members of this organization, I can say this honestly and sincerely, and I've been in this movement a long time. In fact, I've been carrying a card over 19 years. I've been associated with and mixed and mingled with state officials and representatives and senators from the different sections of the state since 1948. And I have recognized this, that we have been kind of behind the doors a lot of time. But Henry Buckaloo is one candidate who came out and said, we want your support. I do. He said, I need it, because he said, I aim to do a job for the people of Mississippi. Because he says, I came from the ranks of labor. I know the need and the cause of the working people and the common people in Mississippi. He knows because he said he had a record, and he does. He has done something for the underprivileged in Mississippi. He has established a home in Jones County for homeless and wayward boys. He established that home with the support of organizations like ours, even though the big shots in some of the chambers of the commerce, and I'll say the Chamber of Commerce in Laurel, Mississippi, and one of the attorneys there, county attorney, attacked him in every way possible. And I say, when a man's record is clean as his, when they dig into it and try from every angle to prove that he has done something wrong and he comes out on top, that certainly that kind of a man would make the right official for the state of Mississippi. So I say to you that we need a man like Henry Buckaloo, and I'm sure that no one here or anyone you go out and influence to vote for him will ever regret supporting Henry Buckaloo for a candidate as the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Mississippi. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hammond. You really did it up brown, boy. I'll have to say that for you. You'll have to admit further that I really gave you every benefit of the doubt on the time question. Okay, brother.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor and Ingram, Local 563, Hattiesburg, clothing workers. I can say something on behalf of this young man that not any in the room here can say. I was raised with this boy. I went to school with him. He was raised in a Christian home. And he took up in the store of work. And as far as personally, as a friend, I consider is one of the best that I have. I'd like to say too, just because he was raised in the same county that I was, that if he didn't stand for the right thing on all principles that God laid down, I'd be against him. He told me personally, he said, if I go down in this campaign, he said, I want to go down with my type of people. And he said, that is a laboring class of people. He said, that's the only one that I really know. And he said, I do want support of all people that believes in the right for the right kind of government, I think.
we have any other discussion? In passing, it might be well to mention this fact in behalf of Henry Buckaloo, that he came right out in the open and said he sought the open endorsement of our people. It has been stated by some of our people, both inside, I'll say it's been stated by some people both inside and outside of our movement, that when we support or attempt to support a man, that it means a kiss of death. And Henry Buckaloo does not believe that, and he wants us to openly support him. I think it might be well to make that fact stated here now. Do we have any other discussion on that motion? You ready for the question? All in favor of the motion signified by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now I'd like to ask that the sergeant at arms come up and get a copy and pass out to the people here a copy of the recommendations of this committee for the officers that have been acted on up to date. We have that on one sheet, and we can give that to you now. Would you please come up, and we will take just a few minutes to get that job done.
Came down in a caravan of amalgamated clothing workers. Now, there was a lady in the hotel lobby last night, didn't know who that was. She asked me, said, who is that group of ladies? I said, those are amalgamated clothing workers. She said, who is that? She said, I told her they made clothes and whatnot. So the kingpin in my bunch was Miss Emily Jarrett. And I told her I was going to tell this on her. She said, all right, you go ahead. We had 3 cars, and she's a fast driver, but I drove. I was a little afraid of her driving, and the deal was, if mealtime caught us between Corinth and Jackson, that I was to feed her. Her husband told me that, and I told him I'd see to it that I got her here between meals. So those people collaborated against me. I left in front, see, and they just stopped behind. I lost them. Well, at West Point, I stopped and pulled over to the side, and by her encouragement, let one of them get in front of me. And that in front helped me back by not driving fast, and the one behind by lagging way behind. So we got down and we got ready to come off of the trace. She said the lady in the car behind might not know her way into the city of Jackson, that I would like to drive for her. Well, that suited me just fine. So we pulled off and waited until they caught up, you know, and she got in, I pulled out, and we got down to the hotel. We waited, and we waited, and we waited, and Emily didn't show up. So we turned around the corner, and she is out in the street. In this car is a nice, bright-colored car. She and a bunch of policemen, and I noticed that she had run into a fellow over on the wrong side of the street. And she was just apologizing, said, friend, said, I'm sorry. Said, as you can see, I'm on the wrong side of the street. He says, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. And finally, she let the man say something, and he said, you are not at fault at all. That bright-colored car, I saw you 3 blocks away, and I could have pulled off and been slam off the street by the time you got here. One more incident happened up in North Mississippi on the way down. You know, these ladies come down from the country, come to town. They come prepared to stay a while. They want to shop, and I understand that Melda Highland from over Water Valley had a pretty good car load, and she got a trailer and put it behind the car and came down. And just as we came off of the trace last night, we found her. She had stopped. The patrolman stopped her, and she was just walking around the car, you know, just wringing her hands, and the patrolman says, well, there's nothing wrong, lady, except you don't have a tail light. And said, that's not a bad offense. You can buy one. She said, sir, I'm not worried about the tail light. I'm worried about that trailer that I left Water Valley with.
Thank you, Brother Sims. We still have a little work to do back there. They're not all quite through, so we will give them a few more minutes. Brother Smithart has one.
Mr. Chairman,
Brother.
Fred McGee from Vicksburg Central Labor Union. We were at Vicksburg Friday night of this 19th of June, 7:30 p.m. at the county courthouse. We having a political rally over there, sponsored by the Vicksburg Central Labor Union. And we'd appreciate anybody from this organization here today coming over and give us a hand.
Give us the date again.
June 19th at 7:30 p.m. at the courthouse.
Thank you. Do we have any other announcements? Brother Bruton?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remind all of the delegates from the Jackson Cope area, which encompasses 9 counties, of the letter they received relative to our meeting for Monday night, the 15th, which is Monday night of next week, at which time we'll go through some of this same procedure relative to legislative candidates and others in the counties in our jurisdiction.
Thank you, Brother Broden.
That meeting will be at the IBEW Hall, 116 Claiborne Street, 7:30.
We have any other announcements? Brother Smithhart would like to make an announcement.
I'd like to say to all you people here that's been trying to collect COPE dollars in your local unions, I'd like to refer to a certain international union here today. It has 15 local unions in the state of Mississippi. And it is reported that all 15 of these local unions has already exceeded their quota of COPE dollars. And I'm referring now to the communication workers, better known as CWA in Mississippi, and I think they deserve a good hand for it.
We have any other announcements? I'd like to inform the board or request the members of our executive board, State Labor Council executive board members, to please meet back up here with me a few minutes when we adjourn this meeting. I'm making this announcement now in the event that we are not able to give you an announcement when we get ready to adjourn. You understand what I mean? So when we do adjourn, please meet up here behind the rostrum with me. We have got to decide something about holding a meeting in the near future. Then we will call the meeting to order, and we will now get down to the proposition to consider a candidate for the governor of this great state of ours. And without any further ado, I'm going to ask our secretary here, Brother Smithhart, to get up and give you the committee's recommendations in regards to this office. Brother Smithhart.
This is probably one of the offices you come out to hear this report on. In this office, running for governor, there was 4 candidates. We asked all of them by a letter, which was registered, receipt requested. And all of them answered the letter and give us a date and time and all. And we had one fellow we kind of gotten a little controversial about, named Mr. Sullivan. He said he wanted the press there and also on TV time, and he offered one time to pay half the cost. We declined this, and he wrote back to us and said he would pay all the cost. But he didn't know what he was getting into when he said that. This interview lasted for 3 hours. If he had paid all the costs for 3 hours on a TV station here in Jackson, you know, I'd probably stop this campaign right there. As I said, it had taken approximately 3 hours on these candidates. We interviewed Ross R. Barnett, Carol Garton, and Robert F. Mason. We give them careful study and consideration from every angle we could think of. Because we know this was serious business to all of us, not only to this group here or the group we represent for everybody in Mississippi. Out of this interview, we taken the questions that how they answered them in several ways, and the ones they had different answers to, we'd go back and recheck this way and that way on it.
we finally resolved down that we had two candidates that we could give serious consideration to. That was Ross Barnett and Carol Garden. We worked on these questions and their answers till late at night, and then get up in the morning and start working on them again. We finally come down. We had about 8 issues that we couldn't resolve in these two candidates. It was some discrepancy in the questions they answered. Now, don't take into consideration we evaluate this all by the questions, the 54 questions, the 5 phases of it. We had other things that we talked about. And out of these 8, we broke it down. It was a 5-3 decision. No, it was 5 in favor of Garton and 3 in favor of Barnett. Now, that don't mean the screening committee, but that means the questions it broke down like that. Garton was a more favorable candidate on these questions. Then Garton had a past record as a mayor in Laurel and also as a lieutenant governor. And our recommendations to you today will be this. 3 of the 4 gubernatorial candidates, Robert F. Mason, Carol Garton, and Ross Barnett, met with the Cope interviewing committee. The 4th candidate refused to appear because he was not permitted to set the conditions under which the interviews were to be conducted. On the basis of the interviews, the committee felt that Mr. Mason's candidacy did not merit serious consideration in the gubernatorial campaign. While both the major candidates, Mr. Barnett and Mr. Garton, are seeking the voters of the union members, neither of the candidates seek the open endorsement of our organization. The State Court Committee feels that neither candidate merits endorsement of organized labor. However, since neither Mr. Garton nor Mr. Barnett will probably be elected governor, serious consideration should be given to their candidacy by members of AFL-CIO. By virtues of 6 years as mayor of Laurel and 8 years as lieutenant governor, we feel that Mr. Garton is better qualified to serve as governor than is Mr. Barnett, who has had no experience in public office. We believe that the honest, fair, dignified government which Mississippi has enjoyed under the present administration would be more likely to continue under a Garton administration. Furthermore, the fact that Mr. Barnett picked then the executive vice president of Mississippi Manufacturers Association, John Gregg, as a state campaign manager caused us to view the Barnett candidacy with serious apprehension. Mr. Barnett's administration with John Gregg as Crown Prince could logically be expected to concern itself more with the profits of the manufacturers than with the welfare of the working people and the farmers of Mississippi. In view of the above 3 factors, we believe that the election of Mr. Garton would better serve the general welfare of the people of Mississippi than would the election of Mr. Barnett. Therefore, the State Cope Committee recommends to this convention the candidacy of Carol Garton for governor. I so move.
Now, you've heard the committee's recommendation. Now, I'm going to make you a suggestion, and you can accept it if you would like. I think it is to your benefit if you allow me to take just a few minutes and ask our Sergeant-at-Arms to pass out to you a copy of the committee's recommendations and the statement that was read to you just then. Is it agreeable to do that? Would you like to have a copy of it now? All right, then that will be done, and then we will open this matter up for discussion. Would you state the purpose that you arise to address the chair?
I'm L.I. Cook from Vicksburg, CWA Local 3518.
I understand now, just a minute. I understand that this young man here has just come out of a school of some sort that they taught him parliamentary procedure. And I felt he might be getting up there with the intent in mind to test out his chairman. Would you state the reason that you would like the floor, Brother Cook?
I would like to issue an invitation to all those present here and to all the organizations that they represent. From the people of Vicksburg, the CWA, from the Central Labor Body itself, from the
Get into the mic a little more. You can't be heard
from
too well.
the city fathers, or whatever you might call them, and from every individual that I've heard voice his opinion, a special invitation to bring our labor convention State Labor Convention, Vicksburg, next year.
Thank you, Brother Kirk. I can assure you that your executive board will take that matter under serious consideration. Everyone have a copy? Then we will call the meeting to order. We will now open the floor up for discussion on the motion. On the committee's recommendation, Brother Sullivan.
Mr. Chairman and fellow delegates,
Give us your name and local,
Pat
please.
Sullivan from the Boilermakers in Pascagoula. According to this report that the Secretary has just read, the third paragraph to me would indicate, and pertaining to the two governors, before this body can adopt the recommendations of the committee, I feel that this paragraph should be read one more time by me instead of the Secretary-Treasurer.
Which paragraph is
The
that?
third paragraph.
Well, you have 5 minutes. You can discuss it.
I'm going to make it short. I might not steal but a half a minute from
What I'm talking about
the
is
clock.
that you have the floor there, and you go ahead and read it.
While both the major candidates, Mr. Barnett and Mr. Garden, are seeking the votes of union members, neither of the candidates seek the open endorsement of our organization. The State Coke Committee feels that neither candidate merits endorsement of organized labor. So, Mr. Chairman, I so move that we have a roll call vote in pertaining to this section here before the committee's recommendation is accepted.
If I understand the brother's motion, you would have to phrase it a little differently, Pat. You would have to offer a motion to amend the committee's report in that fashion, and then, if you get a second, you could request a roll call vote on that amendment. And you understand the requirements of roll call vote. You have a copy of the rules before you.
Right. Did you get the motion yet?
Now, let's get it straight. Now, are you offering a motion that the committee's report be amended and delete the said paragraph?
And we have a roll call vote for endorsement of either candidate.
Well, then I
What I want on
misunderstood you.
Section 3 is self-explanatory. They don't want our endorsement. I'm in favor of not endorsing either one of them.
Well, I understand what the brother's attempting to do, but there is a two-sided question involved. One question.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Brother Bruton, what's your point?
He's asking for a roll call vote upon one paragraph of the committee's report. The roll call vote would only be requested or permitted upon the adoption or rejection of the committee's report as amended by subsequent action of the body.
I see what you're getting at. We will certainly agree with that interpretation as to the roll call. You understand what the brother was saying, that he wanted to amend the committee's report, and then he felt like that the roll call should be taken upon endorsement. Now, the question we got here is to amend the committee's report. Now,
Mr. Chairman.
I've got to get the situation cleared up in regards to what he has attempted to do. I want to know if he's offered a motion to amend the committee's report.
Mr. Chairman, I have the committee's report here. The motion has been made and second to adopt the committee's report as is. I'll make a motion.
Wait a minute, Pat. I want to see if we got.
All right, wait. I'll take
now,
out.
Are you saying that this paragraph does not warrant our support of a candidate for governor, or are you saying that you want to amend this report and strike the paragraph? That's what I want to know.
This report here states in the third paragraph that neither of these candidates want openly endorsement. And I'm amending the committee's report here. Well, I'll take away the amendment. We will just wait a minute. Let me get my concentration again before we get all mixed up and nobody know what we're going to do. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we have a roll call vote to adopt the committee's recommendation.
Then I'll have to rule that motion out of order, and when we get down to taking a vote on the question, then a motion to that effect would be in order. Okay, Brother Bruton.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose an amendment to the report that we have in hand. The committee, I think, has done an excellent work in screening these candidates, in drawing its conclusions, and in bringing them to the assembled delegates. In paragraph 3, we state that neither of the candidates that we consider to be major candidates seek the open endorsement or support of labor as being labor's supported candidate. Further down in the report, you go into the various qualifications of the two gentlemen and also the basis for the final summation of the report, which is a recommendation to our memberships based upon your judgment of their appearing before the committee. In view that the last paragraph says that we recommend to our membership the support of one of the candidates, then I would propose that in paragraph 3, you have called attention to the fact that neither seek the open endorsement, and then I would propose this amendment that the last sentence thereof be stricken from that paragraph and not enter anything of a derogatory nature toward either one of them, in that you have called attention to the fact they do not seek it, but have set out your reasons for making the recommendation to the membership as a whole. And I so move that we strike the last sentence of paragraph 3.
We have a motion to amend the committee's report as outlined by Brother Bruton, and I'm going to ask the secretary to read the sentence back to you as it will read as he has offered that amendment, and then we will put the question before you. Mr. Secretary, would you, what?
Second the motion.
Second the motion, he says. Okay. Keep me on the ball here, I can see that.
On this third paragraph where it says, while both the major candidates, Mr. Barnett and Mr. Garton, are seeking the votes of union members, neither of the candidates seek the open endorsement of our organization. You would leave it at right there and strike the rest. The State Coke Committee feels that neither candidates merit the endorsement of organized labor. The last sentence will be deleted. That was his motion.
You've heard the motion to amend the committee's report.
Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any discussion on the amendment?
Yes, sir. In support of the amendment, I think it's a good idea here that this last sentence be deleted because, you know, one or the other of them, I think, is going to be elected. If we say neither one merits our endorsement or serious consideration, we may be in a hell of a shape, if you pardon the expression. We want to see them sometime and talk to them. So I think it'd be well we'd leave that off.
I gather you're in favor of the amendment. Do we have any discussion, further discussion on the amendment? On the amendment. You ready for the question? Well, this guy keeps running like he's going to the microphone here. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the amendment to the committee's report signified by saying aye. All opposed by the same sign. Motion carried and so ordered. Now the amended motion is before the House. Do we have any discussion on the amended motion? You ready for the question?
Mr.
Brother
Chairman,
Hannon?
the amended motion would be to adopt the committee's report and
As
recommendation.
amended. The motion will be to adopt the committee's report as amended. That's correct.
Well, I thought somebody else wanted to talk whenever you, if they don't in a minute, I'll take it over for about 5 minutes.
All right. Are you ready for the question? Okay, Brother Hannon.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it a fact in arriving at this that these other people who did not appear, did have an opportunity to come before this committee? I'm speaking to Mr. Sullivan.
That's a fact.
Well, it is a fact then that we still have Mr. Sullivan's copy of these questions, which is of interest to all the people in the state of Mississippi, is it not?
That is a fact.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I feel like at this time that we are in a quandary here whether or not there should be open endorsement. But I am a little bit at a loss to find that there are people in this organization and here today that have spoke and are maybe possible go back still want to lean towards Barnett as a candidate for governor. And I was hoping some of them would get up and say a few words about him in behalf of him and why we should support him, and I wanted to tear that up just a little bit. Because I have some records here, and I think you've truly used the proper phrase when you spoke of Mr. John Gregg as a crown prince with Mr. Barnett. One other question. Isn't it a fact that when Mr. Barnett came before this committee that he had 2 people with him that did most of the answering the questions and not him for candidate for governor?
It's a fact that Mr. Barnett had 2 people with him when we met with the committee, but it would be unfair to say that those people answered most of those questions.
At least they answered some.
They did accompany him, and they did expound on some of the questions, yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Just a minute, brother. Brother Hunter has the floor, and his time is not yet up yet. You'll get your opportunity.
I think that we're possibly right, and I'm glad of one thing again today, that we do have the press here with us. It's unusual that we line up with the press many times or go along with some of their thinking, but I see that we're kind of together along this line today. That yesterday, a statement in the paper, State Times, says that there are 15 papers joined the State Times in support of Carroll Garton, stating his qualifications because of experience in lieutenant governor and mayor. We know that he does have a record. We know that he has been fair and has met and discussed many issues with us in labor. We also know that the Jackson Daily News came out yesterday with a front page picture and an editorial in behalf of Carroll Garton's candidacy for governor. I'm inclined to believe that at this time that we may be on the right track, even though we're kind of trailing along behind the press, and I want them to stress this when they report this to the public, that we are with them because we think that the interest of the people in the state of Mississippi would probably be served best with Carroll Gartner as governor. Thank you.
Brother Hunter, you came just under the deadline. You're getting better all the time. Brother, state your name, please.
Fred McGee, Central Labor Union, Vicksburg. In the 5th paragraph down here, it's where it says, would you get the secretary to read that, please, sir?
The 5th paragraph. 5th paragraph.
By virtue of 6 years as mayor of Laurel and 8 years as lieutenant governor, we feel that Mr. Garton is better qualified to serve as governor than Mr. Barnett, who has had no experience in public office.
What was in question in my mind, they said he has had no experience. Is that right or wrong?
As a public official, we have no record of it.
Well, why in the world are we going to put somebody in office that hadn't had a bit of experience when we got a man here that's got umpteen years?
That was part of our consideration.
Do we have any further discussion on the amended motion?
This is Dudley Dillon, 605 Tollertown. The part that I'd like to ask, this outfit like John Smith was, I think that we should let the committee go back and reconsider some of it.
I don't believe I quite follow you, brother. There has been no action taken on John Smith, the office he's running, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's right.
This matter for candidates for that office has already been referred to a caucus, a later caucus of the group within that area. You understand that?
Yes.
We have any further discussion on the amended motion?
Mr. Chairman.
State your name and local,
My name
please.
is A.C. Massey. I'm with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, 733 Pascagoula, Mississippi. We have had referred to us several times here about the experience of our present Lieutenant Governor, candidate for governor, but we haven't had anything pertaining to his stand for labor. What has he done for labor? Is his experience any good to us? He's had experience, but has it helped us? If I understand it right, we're just about at the bottom of the totem pole as far as labor is concerned in the United States. Our per capita income is very low. What has he done for organized labor? Maybe we would do well to consider somebody new that possibly would do something for organized labor. We know this man has not done very much for organized labor since we're at the very bottom, so I think we should consider that.
It might be well at this time for the brother's information to point to the paragraph you just struck. Brother Rutan, are you after the floor? You want the floor, Brother Rutan? Just a little exercise. I wish you'd quit running towards that mic over there. Do we have any further discussion on the amended motion? You ready for the question? Are you ready for the question? Now, Pat Sullivan here had requested a roll call vote earlier, and in fairness to everybody concerned, I want to find out now if he wants to offer a motion that this be done by a roll call. Pat? Well, a motion to that effect's in order at this time. Question has been called for. You offer a motion that it be done by a roll call vote? We have a second to that motion? We have a motion and a second that we polled. I guess I have your name, brother. You ever come up to the mic and speak it in there, and then there'll be no question about it. A local number and so forth.
Harmon McGee with the Barbers.
The local number, please. 475. The motion is by Brother Sullivan of the Boilermakers and seconded by the brother from the Barbers that the matter before you be taken by a roll call vote. Now, it will be necessary in compliance with the rules to have a standing vote on this motion because it will require at least 30% of those present, the delegates present, in order for this motion to pass. Or in other words, in order to do it by roll call vote. All in favor of a roll call vote, please stand. All in favor of taking a roll call vote on this matter, please stand. Have you got the count? Okay. All opposed to the motion, please stand. I don't think it's necessary to count. The convention will be in order. Are you ready for the question?
Mr. Chairman.
The brother requests the chair.
K.M. Holloway, Local 733, IBEW, Pascagoula, Mississippi. I'm just wondering if it's clear to everyone, before we take the vote, just what the action is. Now, the way I understand it, that in adopting the committee's report, the screening committee's report, we are not endorsing either candidate, but we are just agreeing with the report of the committee. Is that right?
The position you're taking here is that you're recommending this candidate to your people as the best candidate for this office, but you are not making a public announcement of that fact.
Thank you.
That's it. That will be what you're doing here. Do we have any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the amended motion, please signify it by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and so ordered. Now, for all practical purposes, you have completed the business of this convention. There will be a few things, a few announcements and the things of that kind that will have to be made. And before we get any further, I would like to say to you people that you have adopted yourselves a program. You have, for the first time in the history of Mississippi, attempted to participate as a group in the political life of our state as such. And I think that the results of your activity will have a lot to do in the future as to how successful we will be when it comes to discussing or influencing people running for political life. So I would sincerely advise each and every one of you to put all of the time that you can into the efforts in connection with this project. That's all the remarks I have in that direction. I think each and every one of you understand exactly what you've done and exactly what has to be done. Now, before we have any announcements, we can give you people a few minutes if you would like to bring any matter that you feel should be considered before this convention. Do any of you have anything that you feel is important enough to bring before this convention for convention action? Then hearing none, I would like to know if we have any announcements. That's it. Give us your name, please, and local.
For the Natchez Central Labor Council. Immediately following the adjournment here, the members, delegates from South Mississippi, John D. Smith, Highway Commissioner's District, we would like to have a meeting to get this settled on who we're going to support for that.
Immediately upon adjournment where?
Here in this hall.
You've heard the announcement. The brother would like to have a meeting of the delegates from the Southern District to take up the problem of attempting to select a candidate for that office. That is the announcement. Brother Bruton.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make
Okay,
I made
Brother
you
Bruton.
nervous a while ago. Before the two gentlemen from the press leave, were they supplied a copy of the questionnaire that was submitted and used in interviewing the gubernatorial candidates?
Right. A copy of what?
Of the questionnaire.
Yes, they received a copy of the questionnaire.
That's the only thing I wanted to know, was to be sure that they had that and that they would use it in relaying to the public our consideration deliberation here this evening.
We have any other announcements? Then I would like to again advise the executive board members of the Labor Council that we will meet in this corner of this room immediately upon adjournment. Do we have other announcements?
Mr. Chairman,
Brother Hanna.
I'd just like to say this, that we have taken action here, and your answer was a while ago it was recommendation and not a public statement. I see the press is gone now, but I think that we shouldn't just pay lip service to this action. We honestly came back here in the committee and told the people that we thought Garton would make the next governor for the state of Mississippi, and sure, if we had time to go in all the ramifications, I think we could convince the people in just a short time that that is exactly right. So let's don't leave here and just scatter to the four winds and say, oh, well, we didn't get any recommendations, we'll vote for this and that and the other for governor. If you come up like that, you might wind up with Mr. Sullivan for governor. And I'll tell you this, if we had him for governor and one other man for lieutenant governor, we might as well all leave the state of Mississippi, what ain't already leaving now. The rest of us can go.
Thank you, Brother Hanna. Do we have other announcements? Then I'd like to ask the delegates to please stand, and I'd like to ask Brother Luther Millsaps, the young gentleman who has been before you once already, to please adjourn this convention with a word of prayer.
Mr. Chairman, let me say just
Brother
this.
Millsaps.
While it stretched a little, I think we've had such a fine convention, such a fine spirit of cooperation. We certainly should say thanks to all of the committees that have labored so hard for the splendid work that they have done. And I would like this crowd to leave with a smile, and I will tell you one short incident that happened up at the cafe. You know, we got one cafe in Jackson, has a big sign. It says, "No tipping, please." Well, W.A. Stevens always makes that cafe, and he got such good service today, he told the waitress, said, you know, I enjoyed my lunch so much that I would love to tip you, but I see a sign says, "No tipping, please." She said, "Bless your heart, sir, so were apples in the Garden of Eden." Now, our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the privilege of the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. We thank Thee for the privilege to assemble ourselves and to make plans to work together for each other. Help us to be more concerned about our neighbor's welfare as much as we are our own. We ask Thee to bless all of our efforts, and where we fail, we ask Thy divine forgiveness, because we pray and we work in Jesus' name and for His sake. Amen.
The convention will be adjourned.